evil reigns, only one team can weather the storm. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is the Avengers. Welcome to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy fact, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Christian.
And I'm Zach.
And welcome back to our Swinging 60s Spy Summer. All this summer, we'll be breaking with our usual formula to cover exclusively fictional spy movies and TV shows made or set during the golden age of spy cinema, the 1960s. So grab your go-go boots and put on your ascot because it's time to get groovy.
I would say at this point, this is the usual formula.
Yeah, I don't know how many weeks this is actually now, how many weeks we are in, but yeah, it'll be interesting to cover things that are not set during the 60s, although we're not clear about when this movie is really set.
That's true.
So, we're covering the Avengers, which is not the Joss Whedon production of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No, this is the 1998 adaptation of the TV show, which we covered last week.
That's correct.
Yes, featuring Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman.
Are you sure it's Ralph Fiennes? I thought it was Ralph Fiennes.
No, it's Rafe. It's spelled Ralph, but it is pronounced Rafe. Trust me.
That's so ridiculous. And for once, he's not playing a Nazi.
Yeah, no. Two things. One, this is like his third spy franchise.
Okay.
Because he's in this, he's in Bond, in like the Daniel Craig's, and he will be in the upcoming Kingsman prequel.
Well, he certainly looks like a British secret agent, especially in this one.
But also, I just couldn't help noticing how many different Harry Potter alumni there were in here. So obviously, Ralph Fiennes is Voldemort. You had Jim Broadbent, who also plays Slughorn. Fiona Shaw, who was father in this, played Mrs. Dursley.
Yeah, I knew her name was familiar.
Yeah.
And I should say before we continue is that this movie has a 5% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow, that is... So had you seen this before?
Absolutely not.
I tried to, and on brand, I fell asleep if it was a terrible movie and I probably was trying to watch it late at night, I fell asleep.
I believe it, and it is a terrible movie, so I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, right. I was wondering if there was any cameos from the old series, and there was one.
Okay.
Patrick McNee, who played John Steed in the original show, was actually the voice of Agent Jones.
Okay, you're going to have to point out that part when it appears. I do not remember an Agent Jones.
All right. But yeah, so this was made in, 1998. So this is already, thinking in terms of James Bond, this is after GoldenEye and after Tomorrow Never Dies, I believe. In terms of where Uma Thurman was, this is after Batman and Robin.
Okay, what about the Kill Bills?
Before that.
Okay. The plot synopsis according to IMDb is 2 British agents team up to stop Sir August de Winter from destroying the world with a weather-changing machine.
Okay.
And do you know other spy movies with weather-changing machines? I ask because I know it's a cliche that has appeared a million times, but I can't actually think of any examples.
Changing machines. I can't think of any. I don't know that it's a cliche. I think it's just a terrible idea.
Well, maybe they also do it in superhero movies too.
That's what I would say, yes. Like, there was a really bad TV movie or TV version of the Justice League, like live action, with the weather wizard who had a weather-changing machine.
Okay. And I was absolutely getting a Lex Luthor, like Gene Hackman Lex Luthor vibe from your buddy Sean Connery, our buddy Sean Connery.
The late, great Sean Connery.
Yes.
Yeah,
there you go.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Maybe if people know an example of a weather-changing machine as a plot device other than this movie, they can rate it and tell us.
Send it to us on social media if you can think of another one. Like, the only other one I can think of is not a spy movie, but it is a Disney Channel original movie. I think it was called The Ultimate Christmas Gift, where Santa, for some reason, has a weather-changing machine.
Well, that makes total sense. He needs it to stow on Christmas, or else it's not Christmas.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into the movie, appropriate with the weather. This starts with like a lot of storm clouds over the credits.
Storm clouds are gathering. It's like a metaphor, get it?
And also there's some like Bond-esque like title credits, but not quite like, naked women in silhouette, but just like a lot of silhouettes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember, did this use the actual? I think this is like one of the few moments that you use like the Avengers theme music.
Yeah, so it's once here and then once at the end. I have
Yeah.
them noted. The music is just like that one kind of ba 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 ba. That's
The
what I
nice, the
recognized.
cool like fanfare.
Right.
Yeah. Focusing on John Steed, who's just walking around this little English village. He is looking at his watch, and as he's looking at his watch, he dodges a falling flower pot. He picks up a flower from the flower pot. It happens to be a white carnation. He puts it in his lapel. And then he starts getting into fights with, first of all, the constable, then the milkman, and then a woman with a baby carriage.
It was great.
Some mechanics. Some nuns come up, and I definitely thought he was going to fight some nuns.
He fought everyone except for them. So obviously it's like a training.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that this is the life of a secret agent that you're walking around and then people just randomly try to kill you. You have to be ready for anything.
So we also meet Mother, who is like the head of the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
He's reporting to someone on a red phone who I presume is like the prime minister or someone.
Either that or Commissioner Gordon.
So they said that the shield is down and it's bad. Next we meet Emma Peel.
No.
Oh, no? Did I skip something?
Dr. Emma Peel.
Yes,
you get it right.
Me. Fair enough. Yes.
Use
Dr.
that title. And already things go off the rails with this because they make it very clear that she's Dr. Emma Peel. And later, jumping ahead a little bit, she says to Steed, "You can call me Mrs. Peel," for some reason. They don't explain why. But then throughout the rest of the movie, everybody else calls her Mrs. Peel.
Yeah.
A sign of things to come. Put it that way.
So we meet her. We find out that she's the former chief of the Prospero program, which I don't think we know what that is at this point.
I don't remember what it is now.
Oh, well, it was a weather shield.
Basically. Oh, okay. Yeah. I figured as much based on context.
But, yeah, so she gets a delivery. It's a box with the note in it. And the note says simply, "Please answer the telephone." And then her phone rings. And she's told that she's supposed to meet John Steed at Boodle's Gentlemen's Club.
Yes, which is a big deal because no woman has gone there in 500 years or something like that.
And now when we speak about Gentlemen's Club, we don't mean like a strip club.
Nope.
No, this is in the British sense. A gentleman's club is just a place. It's a very fancy building where upper crust white men hang out together.
That's right.
Don't say anything really.
Mm-hmm. Well, who knows what they get up to in there? But when I studied abroad in New Zealand, the college that I went to had a club that was the Gentlemen's Club. So I thought it was like a pun or like a risque kind of joke. But maybe in retrospect, they were kind of serious. But what they would do was things like high class happy hours where they have martinis or like have cigar night where they all have cigars. I didn't do that, of course, but it was very fancy stuff.
That would be cool to belong to such a prestigious club like that.
I don't think you'd be able to afford it, though.
No, I don't think I would. Of course, I'd also love to be in such prosperity that I could afford it.
I guess maybe what you need to do is be friends with someone who's a part of it, and then they'll let you in.
There you go. Anyway, so we go to the Gentlemen's Club. Yeah, like you said, there's no woman allowed there, but she managed to talk her way past the guy. Mm-hmm. And of course, all the men who are there, who are either reading a paper or doing something, are shocked that there's a woman in the club.
Yeah, they're not even doing anything controversial. So it's why can't women be there? I guess it's they want to be their true, authentic selves, which I understand.
But yeah, so we find Steed in the steam room.
Naked. Naked.
Yeah, we see his butt.
I got to say, how many movies do you know where the male lead gets naked, but the female lead does not?
That's a fair point, yeah. Well,
Days of Futures Past is one that jumps to mind.
Huh.
Did I tell you the story?
No.
When I saw Days of Futures Past. So I saw it in theater in Connecticut, whatever. Do you remember the part where Wolverine gets up and he's naked and you see his butt? And it's it's full glory. It's not like this where it's just part of it.
Okay.
So he does that and the audience laughs and claps and cheers or whatever. So he walks over to the thing and then the phone goes. There was some kind of issue with the film.
Okay.
I guess they still used film for whatever reason.
All
so
right.
We wait a bit, lights come up, wait. And then it comes back and he gets up, walks over to the thing, and you get to see his butt again. And this time the cheers just rang out across the whole theater.
All right. So where he's sat, so he's sitting down on a bench in the steam room, and he's reading the paper. And of course the paper is covering his nether regions. But he also has his bowler hat next to him for some reason.
He never goes anywhere without it.
So they introduce each other. This is when we get the, you can call me Mrs. Peel line.
Right.
Apparently this was a test to see if she could get her, get into the club, even though she's not allowed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go to drive to see Mother at the ministry, just in time for tea.
Yes, that's right. He loves his tea. And something I noticed about M is that maybe it was just the way I was...
Mother.
Sorry. Don't want to get sued. Mother, not M. M is totally different. So something I noticed about him was that when he's holding a cigarette, his fingers looked all green. Did you notice this?
I did not notice that.
So maybe it was just my TV, because when I looked at his fingers later, it wasn't there. But I wondered if it was supposed to be he's like addicted to cigarettes, because that can happen when you have cigarettes in your fingers like all the time for years and years and years.
Huh. Interesting. Did not know that. They arrive at tea time. She takes a macaroon, even though Steed warned her not to because they're Mother's favorite. Also, we never just addressed that Mother is a man.
Right.
Did we? I guess we kind of mentioned at the top that Mother is played by Jim Broadbent.
Yes.
So this is the part where we find out that Prospero was like a defensive shield. Apparently not just a weather shield, but also just like seemingly a shield that... it was not clear. You know what? I don't know what kind of shield it is. It's a defensive shield. I thought it'd be for weather just because of the theme of this movie. It could also be to protect the UK from other things.
It's like SDI. It's like Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed.
Okay. One of the subsystems blew up, and so it's down. That's what we heard in the beginning.
Yeah, and you know who did it? Was Mrs. Peel.
What?
How could that be?
So they have camera footage of her doing it. But of course, Mrs. Peel said, no, it's not me. So, which reminded me of Who's Who.
Sure.
In the episode one of the episodes we saw last week. But she says, either Mother or Steed says, all right, so you don't say it's not you. Work with Steed to figure out who actually did it. Which is like, what?
No, doesn't make any sense, but I guess that's what you need for the movie to happen.
Yeah. So they leave to go off, and then we meet Father, who is the second in command, played by Fiona Shaw. That's her name. Father thinks it could be Mrs. Peel and doesn't believe that it wasn't her. So we go to this tailor shop where, for some reason, Steed and Peel are fencing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Except this time they're actually both using the same weapon. And not like an epee and a foil for some reason. I think they were both using foils, or I was a little bit... It's like the one time we're like, all right, this is good. Except you could barely see the swords when they're fighting, that it did close-ups on their faces or on their upper half, so you couldn't really see the fight that much, I was like, really? What are you doing? Steed is getting a suit tailored, or actually just a vest done, and apparently he ordered Peel some boots, which we don't see until much later.
Mm-hmm.
And they're about to leave in the car, which is a Bentley, like Steed's car in the show.
Mm-hmm.
There are all these nods. Like, okay, here's my question. Who is this movie for?
Boomers.
Okay, so it's for people who remember the old show?
Yes, that's right.
It's, I don't know. It just doesn't, like, if you don't have any knowledge of the old show, it doesn't work.
Well, I would speculate that the answer to that question is the same people for whom the RoboCop remake was directed, or the A-Team remake. So, like, people complain about remakes in the 21st century, but they've been doing remakes forever.
I will say, though, for the A-Team remake, you had good actors there.
These are good actors. They're just not well written.
Fair enough. But the A-Team movie was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Good. I also enjoyed it, but I would never claim it's a good movie.
As this is happening, we have Bailey, who is Sir August's henchman, played by Eddie Izzard.
Oh, that's who it was. He looked really familiar.
And I know recently Eddie Izzard has come out as transgender and uses the pronouns she, her, but the character is played as a male, so we'll be referring to the character as a male, despite the fact that Eddie Izzard uses she and her pronouns.
Eddie Izzard, I know her also from Mystery Men. When she was the head of the Disco Boys. A much better movie than this.
Eddie Izzard Bailey is watching them, and then we'd cut to them, Steed and Peel, having tea in the car. And there's like this like little faucet in the dashboard.
Yeah, that was great.
Was it?
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
I don't know, it just reminds me of the gag from the Santa Claus, where they have a CD player, which is a cookie dispenser.
That's great too.
Okay, it works in the sleigh of Santa Claus, but not. I don't know. It didn't work for me. But this is when we first get one of their chief suspects first gets brought up, Sir
Mhm.
August De Winters. Where did they get this? If they think that Emma Peel did it, why do they have this name?
So in this scene, I just have Emma Peel takes a bulldozer and just dumps a load of exposition on the audience. And like, I don't even care. I don't even care about the story.
uh,
This is going off the rails already, but she's like, this guy's really weird and creepy, and we got to go check him out, basically.
he's obsessed with weather. He's a
Mhm.
former ministry man. That's what also made me think about Harry Potter a lot. Is he keeps referring to it as just the ministry, like they do in Harry
Yeah,
Potter, except that Harry Potter it's the Ministry of Magic,
right.
whereas this is just the ministry.
Spooky.
I get that they're really trying to do the like quippy dialogue of the show,
hmm
but they're not successful.
No, no. You can say that again. I mean, like, do you want to talk about it now? Like, the whole conceit of the movie really doesn't work. And this is something
Oh,
the reviewers talk about too, is their relationship.
yeah, I like both these actors. Ray Fiennes is great,
Mm,
usually, but they don't have any chemistry.
no. So the show, they like each other a lot. I said they were codependent in the last episode. That's a
Yeah,
little bit of a snipe, but I really liked their relationship. I
but
think
yeah, and
everybody
they're
did.
definitely friends, and maybe more.
Yeah.
But they never need to say that they are more. But you can tell that they actually care about each other. These
Mm,
two, they've just met. We don't know, and especially if you don't have no frame of reference with the old show,
mhm.
you don't care.
Yeah. I think they were also trying to do like a not even Bond, but maybe like a North by Northwest thing where they like don't trust each other, they don't like each other, and then eventually they get together and all that, which is fine if it works, but it's not the Avengers.
Yeah, yeah. They arrive at De Winter's manor, I guess.
Yeah, it
Did
was
you
great.
recognize this place?
It looked familiar, but I couldn't place
So
where I
it's
knew it from.
Blenheim Palace, which has been used in many, many movies, but it was actually used in both Mission Impossible Rogue Nation and Spectre, which both came out the same year. And
Mm.
as I've stated before, have the same plot, basically. Steed is going to go snoop around, but Mrs. Peel will go and distract De Winters.
Just like the show, I appreciated that they
Yeah.
like split up. Yeah.
And so get a peek inside the house, and there's this giant snow globe collection in the hall, like all these snow globes, just
hmm
piled on top of each other. And Sir August De Winters is there playing this pipe organ, but at the very top of, like, in the center of the pipe organ is this picture of Mrs. Peel.
Okay, so that's the kind of surreal, kind of creepy stuff we want, also from the Avengers.
Yeah.
Do they ever explain it though?
No.
I didn't think so.
Mrs. Peel is walking through the greenhouse. There's lots of like flowers in cages, which
Mhm.
made me think about Poison Ivy because this is a year after Batman and Robin.
She's like, "Don't typecast me." Connery also has a line here. Oh, I'm sorry. Alex De Winter says meteorological. Okay, excuse me.
August to Winters.
August De Winter says, "I like a woman who is meteorologically inclined."
Well, yeah, so like she's walking around and like it's getting even more like jungle like, and then he pops up and does he have like his hand at her throat? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, no, that's right. Is he
Okay.
like grabs her when he first appears?
Yeah.
I have a note. WTF is happening in this part.
I mean, it's just like it doesn't seem like he's expecting her, but also he seems to be expecting her.
Well, he has the
Maybe?
picture.
Yeah.
But he must have foreseen, okay, I'm going to send this clone of her out
Right.
to do some damage, so eventually she's going to show up. Like,
Okay.
that's the one thing that
Yeah.
makes sense, amongst so many things that don't.
But then if you are, why threaten her by like choking her? What?
That was more like a power play, I thought.
Oh,
He
God.
wasn't actually trying to kill her.
I don't know. Anyways, so they start talking about weather and like all the flowers that are in cages, which apparently are like genetically enhanced, which also again, Poison Ivy
hmm
gets him like monologuing about who knows what.
I don't even care. I wasn't listening. I didn't write any of it down. But he does have a cool quote where he says, "I did it all," which I thought was kind of neat.
But yeah, so as this is going on, Steed is snooping around. He finds his phone booth randomly, like a British phone booth,
hmm
in the forest, and it starts ringing. And as it starts ringing, the wind starts picking up. The weather starts getting a lot harsher. Picks up the phone, and there's a voice that says, "Private property, no trespassing."
That feels like the show.
Yeah, and it keeps
Absolutely.
repeating that. Now it's snowing.
hmm
There's these sled dogs that approach with like a sled behind them,
Yay.
and it's Mrs. Peel in like these big furs.
hmm
she shoots him with a revolver in the chest, like right at the heart.
Yeah, that was crazy. It's like execution. She just walks up to him and shoots him. He's saved because he has the bulletproof waistcoat. That's how you say it. From before.
Yeah. So, but he wakes up. Well, Mrs. Peel wakes up Steed. I guess, is this his flat? I'm not sure where they are.
Yeah. Well, suddenly they're back in his place. I don't understand how they escaped or what happened.
No idea.
Yeah.
And they do this a few times where it's like, all right, there's this, someone might be dead. And then they wake up in another place, but there's no explanation, which is like fine in a regular movie because they might explain it. Here, they never do.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's supposed to be surreal, but there's a difference between surreal and like doesn't make any
nonsensical.
Sense.
Yeah.
Right. So I like this part where they're talking and she's playing the piano and then she turns and the piano keeps playing by itself.
You mean that trick that every kid did, like in an apartment store where there was a keyboard playing?
It doesn't get old to me.
Yeah, that was a little funny, but yeah. So, So next, Steed and Peel go to Wonderland Weather to investigate. Again, this is another thing where it's like, why? How do they know about this? What?
I think they explained it, but I just wasn't listening because every time they're talking to each other, I just like go into a catatonic state.
I don't think they did explain it this time because they just show up at the place.
Yeah, they must have figured it had something to do with the thing, but who cares? Because next is furries. There are furries in this movie.
What?
The bear suits.
Oh, furries.
What did you think?
No. We're not there yet. Well, hold up.
I'm sorry. I couldn't wait to talk about the furries.
They go to investigate, and they say that they're from this influential group of flower growers, which made me think about Who's Who again.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they're breeding this rare rose, the Crimson Monk, and they name drop August de Winters as like one of their friends. So the woman's like, "Oh, of course, you must know whoever." I was hoping that this rose that they were talking about was going to be the same rose from Who's Who, the Crimson Glory, but it was not. It's the Crimson Glory is the rose from Who's Who, whereas this is the Crimson Monk. I was like, oh, come on. You couldn't have just made the same for those. Like, if you're trying to get those viewers of the old show, Who's Who is apparently a pretty famous episode. So just go with the same rose instead of going for something different.
Yeah, if you're going to be so specific about what kind of rose it is, at least have it be a callback and reward your readers for paying attention, or viewers.
Yeah. This is the only part I remember from watching it the first time.
The furries. What do you think is more ridiculous? This costume or his one from Zardoz?
I don't know. I can't decide.
I can't imagine what Sean Connery was thinking when he has the suit and then the headpiece is off so you can see his head on the bear.
So let's set the scene. Before we go just dive right into it, let's set the scene. So Sir August is having a meeting of Wonderland Weather, and everyone is in these giant teddy bear suits to hide their identities, even from each other. Sir August knows who all of them are, and they all know who Sir August is, but to protect each other's identities, they're all in the teddy bear suits.
Yeah, if only the Court of Owls had thought of this.
This felt like a typical, like, this is weird for Connery to be on the other side of like a Bond villain speech.
Mm-hmm.
This is the classic thing of, does anyone want to get out? And and of course a few people do, and then they get killed.
Immediately, yes.
Yeah. He throws like these darts at, like, look like lawn darts. Kill them immediately.
Yeah, it somehow penetrates the giant bear suit. I don't get it, but it's fine. And like, what's weird is that he doesn't even comment about it. He's like, "We're all anonymous here." So like, if they had filmed it and they were wearing just the Court of Owls masks and not the teddy bear suit, it would have been exactly the same. So like, why?
You can have a teddy bear with Sean Connery's voice coming out of it,
and his head on top of it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, the surreal image of just the Sean Connery's voice coming out of a teddy bear. Also, like, somehow these things like move perfectly whenever Connery's walking or moving or talking. They like all turn in unison, like as if it was a teddy bear moving its head.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous.
As weird as it is, I have no complaints about this because this is like one of the few parts that's actually interesting.
Yeah.
It leads up to my favorite part, which is coming up.
Okay. Steed and Peel are getting a tour of Wonderland Weather from the receptionist.
And at this point, I realized what this movie reminded me of, which was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh.
Yeah. Think about it. Think about it.
All right. Yeah, I can see that. So they do some more snooping. They find the boardroom where they were having the meeting. The two dead bears are still there. So Steed and Peel unmask them and find out that they're two members of the Prospero research team. And as they're leaving the boardroom, they spot two more bears. They split up.
This is my favorite part.
Oh?
They're walking along a bridge and they see in an open glass elevator a bear, and the bear does like the point, like the I'm gonna kill you point. It made me laugh out loudly.
Oh, this movie.
So this one part was hilarious. I don't think it was supposed to be funny.
So so one of the bears goes down to the ground floor and one goes to the roof. So of course they make you take the high road, I'll take the low road joke. Which is kind of worked for me.
I appreciate any references to Celtic music.
The one that Steed went after was Bailey. Yeah, you see Bailey taking off the suit, throw it in the dumpster, which, why would you throw it in the dumpster right next to the place instead of getting rid of it somewhere else?
Yeah, whatever.
And he's got all these henchmen with him, so Steed fights all the henchmen. This was not a bad fight scene.
No, it was good. It reminded me of the Kingsman fight, of course.
I was going to say, yeah, it definitely reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to miss when you have a British guy in a suit with an umbrella. But also, the henchman reminded me of Sting and the Police for some reason. I have that note down. I don't know why.
All right.
But then also in the fight, he has the steel hat. Like, he whacks somebody with the hat, and it actually hurts
I was waiting for him to, knock on, this thing and to have, the very metallic sound. But he never does that.
Finally, they reward the viewers of the show who understand that if you smack someone with a hat, it would actually hurt them.
Yeah, he knocks all of them out besides Bailey. And Bailey gets away, but in the process drops this map, which has the word Brawley on it. And Brawley stands for British Organization for Lasting Liquid Years, which is apparently another organization that's working with Wonderland Industries, or Wonderland Weather. That's right.
Yeah, it gives them somewhere else to go and something else to investigate, I guess is the idea.
Yeah, on it, Brawley is there's a period after each letter, but the BR comes from British, so there shouldn't be periods between the B and the R.
Nope.
But Spectre is also guilty of this, because there's periods between each letter of Spectre, but it's the special executive. That's SP comes from special. I don't know. We get no explanation for who Brawley is, really. I think they mention it in the teddy bear boardroom scene, but barely. Yeah.
Talk about an overstuffed plot. Overstuffed like the teddy bears.
We go up to Peel on the roof, and she gets jumped by the bear. I loved everything with the bears. It was so great. And this bear is revealed to be the other Emma Peel in disguise. Right. And so that they fight, and then the other Emma Peel jumps off the roof.
That was pretty sweet.
But where does she go?
Away.
But what? How does she survive that?
I don't know. She's skilled. She can do anything.
And next we go to Sir August, who's targeting a location in London for his weather machine. I was trying to figure out, okay, where is this in London? But it's apparently nowhere, because it's this giant field and there's this little ball. It looked like the ion cannon from Star Wars.
I have that too. It looked like the ion cannon.
And it's like a lightning rod, basically, the machine's supposed to strike. So he was doing that test, and as this is happening, Steed and Peel are seemingly back at Steed's flat. They're discussing the plans while playing chess. And Mrs. Peel isn't even looking. She's doing, what other movie do we have that they were playing chess without actually seeing the board?
I was thinking of the Queen's Gambit, but that's just because it's chess involved.
I wonder if anyone will
still remember the Queen's Gambit by the time this comes out.
Oh, I know what it was.
Okay.
The catcher was a spy.
Oh, yeah.
They are actually playing chess, though, but Mrs. Peel isn't looking at all. My wife, Carolyn, who's been on the show before, noticed that Steed is playing. He's moving his pieces, but he's not moving her pieces when they're playing.
Wow. That would make it pretty hard.
But that makes no sense at all.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
So she's analyzing something. I don't know what. Steed had orders to kill Mrs. Peel if she was actually the one behind it. Oh, she was. What she's doing is she's tracking the weather patterns, the freak weather patterns that seem to be happening. Except this is the first that we're actually hearing about it.
Okay, apparently she's been doing it the whole time, but whatever. Doesn't he say also at this point that, according to her file, she has a psychopathic personality?
Yeah, which I'm like, what?
Yeah, come on, this isn't the Avengers. She's not supposed to be like almost on the verge of being a bad guy. They're good
So,
guys.
I have a theory about that, and that'll tie into the next scene.
Hi, Spy-Fi fans. We have a promotion for you.
This is not an ad.
No, it is not.
We're offering you a chance to win a free Spy-Fi Guys t-shirt if you live in the US or Canada.
All you have to do is leave a 5-star review for this podcast on iTunes and use the code word SUMMER in the review.
That's the code word SUMMER.
You have until the end of the Swinging 60s summer, so the end of September 2021.
We will select our winner at random from all the entries received.
Again, that's a 5-star written review with the code word SUMMER for your chance to win.
Good luck, and thank you for listening. So next scene, we have Father and Sir August playing croquet. She's warning him about Pio, so obviously she's in on the plot.
Yeah, no need to have that be revealed in like a dramatic or interesting fashion. Play croquet together.
What this reminded me of, though, was Goldfinger.
Sure.
The scene of Goldfinger where they're playing golf, because it's Connery, of course. I thought about that. And like there are even camera angles that look very similar to when Connery is supposed to sink this really long putt in Goldfinger.
Mhm.
Yeah, like they do a very similar camera angle when he's hitting the croquet ball or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to steal from the best.
My theory about her whole file is that Father set it up.
Oh.
So she's not actually a psychopath.
That works. I
But
like
it's
that.
never explained.
Yeah, if they don't circle back to it, if there's no setup and then payoff, then like, yeah, that's not so good.
So next we go to Bailey, and we find out that he's controlling a set of drones.
Yeah. I also have down that they were drones.
Because they're shaped like bees. So
drones. Because bees are drones, yes.
So he sends them off to attack Steed and Pio, who are driving in a car. Where they're going, I don't know. This movie explains nothing.
We're going to Brawley.
Wait, oh, no.
No?
No, they're not.
They're going back to August to Winter's house?
Maybe?
I think so.
That's where they end up, but I don't know if that's where they're meant to go. I don't know. Anyways, so they have this chase scene. One of the drones crashes into the car, and Steed uses its gun somehow to shoot at the other drones.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up knocking out all the drones. And like in the middle of the road, there's this woman like with a bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
She pulls a Tommy gun out of the bouquet of flowers and takes out the last henchman.
Yeah, so I like this. Like she was like part of their crew, and she was infiltrated in first, and now she's gonna help them out. Like it totally works. Yeah. And I think she even survives the movie.
Maybe.
No?
We don't actually see her at the end.
We don't see her again? Yeah.
Yeah. Her name is Alice.
Yes.
They walk towards a back entrance of De Winter's estate. The back entrance apparently is going through a maze.
Yeah, they get some sexy dialogue during the maze, like, I'm going to come find you, or whatever. I didn't write it down. Something like that.
I would not describe it as sexy.
Okay, well, that's fine. So eventually they get separated, just like in Harry Potter. The hedge maze there.
Yeah, I did also think about it there. Yeah, the maze in
Goblet of Fire.
Yeah,
my personal favorite one.
No.
Oh yeah.
Your terrible taste aside.
Mm-hmm.
So they get separated. They're talking through the hedges, and then Mrs. Peel falls down this hole. Steed and De Winters fight. Steed has his trusty umbrella, and Winters has like a staff. They fight, but then De Winters knocks the umbrella into the air and it opens, and Steed is just like, never mind defending himself. He's just watching the umbrella come down and lands perfectly into his hand. And by that time, De Winters is gone. What?
I don't understand any of this stuff.
And then the other Mrs. Peel knocks Steed out, like kicks him in the face or something. I don't remember. But
Boom.
yeah, so now we find out what happened to the real Mrs. Peel, and she's tied up under a machine that's like hypnotizing her. Like Sir August says that he's mind wiping her.
I guarantee you this has happened in the series at least twice.
Yeah. Alice finds Steed still in the maze and wakes him up and says, "Here's the plan." Never explains what the plan is. And then we go back to Sir August, and he's dancing with Peel, and she's clearly like drugged and out of it.
Mm-hmm. This is very creepy.
He puts her on a bed and is like about to kiss her.
Mm-hmm.
But then the doorbell rings.
Yes.
And at the door is Alice. And then Peel wakes up and is like trying to escape. And she finds herself in Inception, basically.
Yeah, well, MC Escher painting with the
Yeah.
stairs. That was kind of cool.
Mhm.
I wanted more of the movie to be like that.
Yeah, they're very sort of like, and also she'd like try to enter a door or exit a. I like this part where she like leaves a hallway and then walk in and then be like, and then she'd be right at the beginning of the hallway.
It's like the Cube movies.
Yeah. So Steed is snooping around outside again, and he's tapping on the window,
Hmm.
and Mrs. Peel can hear it. And so he keeps tapping, and she jumps through a mirror, which turns out to be the side of the window, and comes out, gets outside.
So they just run away back to town. It's like
Yep.
D&D. They just go back to town.
Like, so Alice had him at gunpoint.
Uh-huh.
What?
I was hoping you were going to tell me because I just thought of that as well.
No, nothing. Well, we find Alice later, but
Yeah.
no explanation.
They must have had like a deleted scene or something.
Well, yeah. Anyways, Steed brings Peel to his flat, but he speaks like he's never brought her to his flat before.
Right.
So where was the other place?
Her flat.
Was it?
Sure, I guess. I don't know.
He has her boots,
Mhm.
which she like from that scene, which feels like years ago. Because this movie is, I don't know.
It's really short and yet it feels really long.
Yeah, and they're having banter, flirting dialogue.
Uh-huh.
As he's like unzipping her boots, her other boots, and zipping these up. She says she doesn't remember anything, but then Father bursts in with a bunch of goons. Well, ministry goons.
Yeah.
And Mother's there too. Like it was like I think they were they like right about to kiss.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
Yeah.
and also, first of all, I take offense at you calling them goons, okay? They are hardworking civil servants. This is
All
a
right, fair
legitimate arrest.
Is it?
Well, yeah, Father's pulling some strings, but it's all above board.
To go back to like who's who, yeah, this is like all the other agents who are trying to go after Steed and Peel when they're in the other people's bodies. All right, so they're not goons. I just because they were with Father, I just
Yes.
assumed they were goons.
One man's goon is another man's legitimate enforcer of the law. We'll say that.
Do we want to say that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
They arrest Peel,
Uh-huh.
and Steve talks to
The Invisible
Mother's
Man.
Colonel I. Jones, and the I stands for invisible.
Yeah, that's fortunate that he became invisible later. Or that's a weird name to have your whole life.
Also, this is Patrick McNee. That's the voice.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah. And apparently he works naked, or they figured out how to make his clothes invisible. I think the latter is more likely.
Unknown. Yeah. I did like the moment where like Steed is not sure where to look. He said, just talk to the pipe. As he has there's a floating pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives Jones the map, the Brawley map,
Mm-hmm.
to look at. And he says, I want to know more about the Prospero program. So Father has Mrs. Peel in a very, very tall padded cell.
Yeah.
It's like two or three stories tall.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one thing that makes me think maybe Mrs. Peel does have like some mental issues, because she's like in the, well, not the fact that she's in the padded cell or the fact that she's in a straitjacket, but she starts ranting that makes it sound like she's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were being falsely arrested because someone who looked identical to you that you've seen is doing these things, maybe you'd be a little crazy too.
Yeah, she's been through some weird stuff in this movie,
Yeah.
and presumably outside of the movie too. I wouldn't be surprised if Father like messed with her head or something.
Yeah. So we find out from Colonel Jones that Sir August ran the ministry's cloning program. What?
Why do they do this to us?
But like they
So
never
bad.
addressed anything further.
Uh-huh.
So they never confirmed that this is a clone of Mrs. Peel.
Well, presumably it is. Like, why else would you have talk about a cloning program in your movie?
But he went too far, is what they say. They don't ever specify what that means.
Well, you clone someone who already is alive, and then you use them to frame them for murder or whatever, crimes against the state.
Seems to be before, like the fact that Colonel Jones knows that he went too far implies that there was something else that happened when he went too far, not this.
That's true. That's true. But we
But
never
also
find
he-
out what it is.
No, but he purchased a bunch of land, like former ministry land,
Hmm.
which is what was shown on the map, which is apparently an island in the middle of London. But what?
Yeah, it's like along the Thames River.
Oh, okay. I guess that kind of makes sense, but I feel like,
It's not very secret.
yeah, I don't know. This movie. It's hurting
Whatever.
my head.
Keep going. We're almost at the big finale.
We find out the weather is getting worse by the minute. I didn't know it was getting worse, but it's getting bad now. Like, they say these things as if we should know.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so Sir August, in like full Scottish garb, interrupts the Council of Ministers, which is basically the UN, seemingly.
Mhm.
Starts monologuing. He says he's going to use the weather to destroy London. And why? Because from now on, they have to buy their weather from him.
No. Hang on. I want to say it
Oh,
exactly the way
all
he
right,
says it,
all right.
because I actually thought a couple of these lines were sort of cool.
Are you going
So
to do the accent?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I like when he says,
Do it.
"Weather is not in God's hands, but in mine." I thought that was cool. And then the other line I like is when he says, "You'll buy your weather from me, and by God, you'll pay for it." I
You'll
like
buy
that.
your weather from me, and by God, you'll pay for it.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. You didn't think it was cool?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
And they have until midnight to something. They don't.
To
He
pay him.
says you haven't, but he's given no like amounts of money how much they need to pay. In a Bond movie, if they've ever done a ransom for money or anything like that, they give them a deadline. You say, all right, this is how much money. This is where you're supposed to drop something. That was just, you just have till midnight. That's it.
No, this didn't bother me. I
Right?
interpret it as you have until midnight to tell me we like concede. Like okay, you
Uh,
win, we give up. That's fine.
Actually, you know what? Forget I said that, because we do get demands in the very next scene. Because this is when
Oh.
Alice reappears.
Oh, okay.
She stumbles into Ministry HQ and says, I have Sir August's demands. Like, this movie has driven me so out of my mind that I forget what happens from scene to scene, but thankfully I have notes.
It is kind of funny that Sir August just issues his ultimatum and allows his like underlings to handle all the details.
She's not even an underling, she was a hostage.
Even better.
So he wants 10% of their GDP annually.
Yeah.
Which Mother says that's preposterous, that's no deal. And Alice says, yes, Sir August knows that. And then, yeah, so basically he just wants to destroy the world. He doesn't even want the money, maybe.
I like it. Finally, something interesting happening.
Do you though?
Kind of.
Mother asks Alice if she was tortured, and she said, no, there was no reason to, because Sir August knows everything already. Because there's a high-level leak in the ministry. Father.
Yes.
Which we already knew. You really should never know more than your protagonist.
Well, it depends on the movie, unless you're going for dramatic irony, which they were not.
Maybe, but like
here.
In like this sort of thing where it's supposed to be like a mystery.
Yeah.
It definitely, you loses something, because then you feel smarter than the protagonist, which you never want your protagonist to feel dumb unless they're supposed to be a dumb character.
Unless the movie's Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, though. It's not interesting because we already know it.
Exactly. Yeah. Mother goes to confront Father, very easily, like knocks over Mother in the wheelchair and leaves him. Steed, I guess, has just come back from the archives and runs over to Mrs. Peel's cell, sees that it's empty, and like looks at his pocket watch, and there's like some sort of tracking screen on there.
From the boots.
We don't find that out till later, but yes.
Well, I'm a smart audience member, and I put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I figure that out as well, too. I mean, you don't need to be that smart to figure out that detail. You need to be, I don't know, some kind of idiot savant to figure out what's going on in the rest of this movie.
Absolutely. No argument there.
And suddenly, Mrs. Peel is in a hot air balloon with Father?
Yes. That's right.
And so, like, Steed finds Mother, and where was this set up that there's a balloon?
They have to get to his island somehow. Why not use the most vulnerable piece of transportation you could possibly find?
So she wakes up, she gets on top of the balloon, is trying to sabotage it. The balloon is like going off course because of her sabotage, and the two Mrs. Peels fight on top of the balloon, or on top of the structure of the balloon.
Somewhere. But I wanted to say about this fight is there's a part where one of the Mrs. Peels hits the other one, and they have like the generic punch sound effect, like that you hear in every Jackie Chan movie.
That sound.
Like, I would describe it more as like a whoosh. Yeah. I don't know. I can't really do it, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
So the balloons pass by Trafalgar Square, and it knocks over the statue of Lord Nelson, which made me think about, I was like, wait, there was some movie where someone stole the statue of Lord Nelson. It was Casino Royale 67.
Okay, yeah,
and
that's right.
See, like, Trafalgar Square, and, like, it's missing. Wow, Lord Nelson just can't take a break. I mean, first he, dies at the Battle of Trafalgar, and then also people keep stealing him or knocking him over.
Yeah, he's like Big Ben, where people just keep wanting to take him out.
Which, I mean, we'll get to that. Apparently, in Trafalgar Square, there's also a giant sign, like a neon sign for Wonderland weather. Because of Mrs. Pio's sabotage, the balloon's going off course, and we hear Sir August like telling Father, "You're losing course. You're losing altitude." No, that's more Irish. No, that's Scottish. I don't know where that accent was.
Well, Sean Connery is easy to do. You just do the S's.
But you also have to have the voice, like the lower the registry, and then because it's not quite a Scottish accent.
No, it's not.
You're
Okay.
going. No, I can't do it.
You're going off course.
Yes, that it is.
That was good. I think you're better at it than me.
But yeah, so it crashes into the Wonderland weather sign. But right before it crashes, Mrs. Peel, the real Mrs. Peel, falls off of the balloon into a giant snowbank because, oh yeah, did we forget to say that it's snowing?
No, we forgot to say that, but I guess it's like once you get snow, how much worse can the weather get before it becomes like natural disaster?
Yeah,
I mean, is exactly what happens. Yeah.
But yeah, so the balloon and the sign explode.
Mm-hmm.
So there goes Father and fake Mrs. Peel. Steed gets to Trafalgar Square, is looking up, looking at his tracker, looking up, and sees the balloon and sees Mrs. Peel fall into a snowbank and finds her. He explains that there was a tracker in her boot, and then they kiss.
Yes.
What?
Sucks.
And she's like, I believe that was a kiss, and he says, technically.
My face was contorted from cringing during this part.
Technically, what does that mean?
Because he's a technical guy.
He says it was like to just make sure that you were the right Mrs. Peel, but how would he know? Because he's never kissed either Mrs. Peel.
I was like, just stop talking.
What? Ugh. This feeds back into that thing of who is this movie for? If it's for fans of the show, they never kiss, except for like that one episode where they were swapped bodies with someone else. Why? This I think it's just Hollywood didn't understand how to have a movie where you have attractive male and female who don't kiss at some point.
That's right. I mean, that's what it was expected in the times. So you give the people what you think they want. Yeah.
So we go to Mother, who's reporting to the PM and says that there's 2 agents on it, and he has to specify to the PM a man and a woman. Why does it matter? But then we get Mrs. Peel and Steed walking across the Thames.
Yeah.
In these big bubbles, which reminded me of the verse scene of the town of no return. Was that what the episode we watched?
Yeah, where they come out of the water.
Yeah.
How great would it have been if they were zorbing at this part?
What's zorbing?
It's like a big plastic ball like this, but instead of walking, you're strapped in an X position, and then you roll around.
Yes.
You're supposed to go down a hill.
It also reminded me of what's the thing from The Prisoner?
Rover, of course.
Rover, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Mrs. Peel is now in the cat suit, but was she just doing that to pretend she was the other Mrs. Peel?
That would have been a great twist.
I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Oh, that would have been good. Oh, well.
They go through the forest, which is, again, snowy, and they find one of the dead teddy bears. Apparently, he was also from Prospero. And then they see the phone booth. And this is where we get the line, a variation of the line, where Steed goes to the phone booth and says, Mrs. Peel, you're needed.
I like that.
All right, fine.
Yeah, it works.
They get into the booth. There's some flirty banter.
Mm-hmm.
She picks up the phone and says, how now, brown cow?
I don't get it.
And then they go down, the phone booth drops them down into the lair, which, again, Harry Potter. The phone booth that drops you down if you dial the right number, say the right phrase, into the ministry. Yeah.
Okay. And this part was very League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This whole
I can see it.
high wire part, yeah.
They see this big giant dome, and they go down this big giant spiral staircase. Mr. Peel says she can shut down the machine, and so Bailey goes after Mrs. Peel while Sir August is going to take care of Steed. Sir August blows up the staircase, but Steed just uses his umbrella to block most of the shards and moves on.
Yeah.
Whereas Mrs. Peel has to cross these wires to get to the silver ball-shaped control panel.
I actually like both of these fight scenes. Mrs. Peel versus Bailey and Steed versus Sir August. I thought they were both good.
Mrs. Peel's fight, because I realized, Mrs. Peel is famous for her is it kung fu or something? I don't remember which type of martial art.
I think it's kung fu. Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever my martial arts is supposed to be. And we then, I realized we haven't seen her fight actually, except for the fencing.
No, you're right.
But we do see her fight here, and it's actually it's pretty good. And I like that when Bailey is crossing, he actually wires himself in,
yeah, it's smart.
So he's attached to the wires, and they're fighting. They have some acrobatic fights. Like Mrs. Peel pulls off some gymnastics moves as if he were on the horizontal bars, which was cool. But eventually, she knocks Bailey off, and the wire he's attached to gets disconnected. He George of the Jungles into the side of something, and then he lets out the only F word in the movie.
Yeah, apparently the one F word in a PG-13 movie goes back further than I thought. I thought that was more of a recent rule.
No, that's been for a while. It is the thing that can edge you from a PG to a PG-13. So, because they wanted it to seem like a higher rated movie that'd be more attractive to the audiences.
Sure.
So they put in one F word. Also, that F word's not even Eddie Izzard. That's not her voice.
Oh, how'd you know that?
You can hear that it's not her voice. And also, you never see the character's mouth move. The character's mouth is hidden by their arms. And so it's definitely something that they just add. All right, we have one F word. We need to put it in there so we get it, make it a PG-13 movie. There you go, right there.
So also around here is August is making fun of Steed's name.
Oh, yeah.
I have a quote here and this is going to be the record for Sean Connery impressions in a single podcast. He's like, "It's a horse ass of a name."
Horse ass of a name.
Horse ass.
Horse's ass of a name.
I was like, why would you make fun of somebody's name? It's the one thing about themselves they can't control.
Also, your name is August De Winters.
I think they're both cool names.
Speaking as someone whose name has a theme.
Uh-huh.
You never make fun of someone else's name if your name definitely has a theme to both names.
People with theme names unite. And then somebody around here says, "You're not a racing man."
Yes, because it's a steed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Steed finds August. They have their fight. Steed, I like the sword umbrella. That was cool.
Yeah, I like that.
August throws some darts, same kind of darts he used to kill the teddy bears. He throws them at Steed. Steed blocks with the hat. But I was expecting them for to bounce off because it's metal hat. But no, they just stick into the hat. And then he throws it at Sir August, when he just knocks it away into the water. And there's the hat.
Also, more dialogue I like from this part is Sir August says, "Time to die," and Steed says, "Not just yet." In a better movie, that would have been kind of cool. I like understated dialogue.
No Time to Die,
Uh,
which by the time of this release will still not be released.
Nope. More like No Time Will Ever Come Out.
Oh, sad. To be fair, I do actually want to see it in a theater when that is safe. So I'm okay with them delaying it, unlike other Bond fans on the internet. But we don't need to get into that.
James Bond can be patient, and so can we.
So also we get a shot of Big Ben getting hit by lightning. Like we said, people just love, if it's in London, you blow up Big Ben, you blow up, now you blow up the London Eye. Yeah.
You knocked the London Eye over. People love that.
Yeah.
Did this come out before or after Independence Day? Do you know? I'm going to look it up.
It's after.
Okay.
Independence Day was 96.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. Taking out major landmarks is just what you do in these big event movies.
I never did see the sequel. I did see the trailer, and I liked the line that, what's his face? Jeff Goldblum says, "They do like getting the monuments." Anyway, so as they're fighting, Steed loses his sword. He gets knocked over a railing, and he lets go of the railing and falls down a level.
Yeah.
And Sir August chases after him, and they're more fighting, and then he maneuvers it so that he grabs the staff from Sir August and stabs him through.
Right.
That wasn't even a pointy staff.
That's how strong he is.
Oh, God. And then, what?
He gets zapped.
Not only so, he gets hit by lightning, which somehow doesn't also shock Steed, despite the fact that they're on a very wet metal. What do we call it?
Girder.
Walkway? No, walkway. Yes. Yeah. Also, the lightning grabs Sir August and lifts him up into the skies as he's getting burnt up.
Isn't it great?
What?
I loved it. I was so happy to see it because it meant the movie was almost over. But also, it was no body, no death, so maybe they could bring him back in a sequel.
I don't know. He seemed pretty badly burned. But, I mean, and if this was an Austin Powers movie, You could just have Will Ferrell's like, I'm very badly burned.
Yeah, see? No problem.
The weather is still destroying London, and
Mhm.
Peel. I'm hoping she's done more than just this one thing. We don't see any of it. We saw her like start to do whatever she was doing, and then it cut away just to them fighting. Which
Mhm.
you might have liked the fight. I don't know. It was kind of lackluster to me. Like it was a lot of high angles, and like you really couldn't see them fighting that much.
It was actually exciting, unlike the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so Mrs. Peel has to cut either the red wire or the black wire,
Mhm.
and she does eeny, meeny, miny, mo to figure out which one to cut, and luckily she cuts the right one.
What a pro.
She does this ridiculous swan dive down to where Steed is,
Mhm.
and an auto-destruct system activates.
Yeah.
So they go into the control pod that Sir August was in before, everything blows up around them,
Mhm.
and we go to Mother, who's back on the phone with the PM. He says that, everything's resolved. Steed and Peel are MIA. Then they resurface in the pod outside of Parliament. They quote the what was it? The something in the Pussycat, the owl in the Pussycat.
Went to sea in a pea green boat. Get it? Because we're on the sea also in a boat. It's really
I mean, it
obvious.
is a poem. Yeah.
I think that seems like the kind of thing they would have done in the series. It's just said by people
It
who we
just
don't
doesn't
like as
work.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Characters we don't like as much, or portrayals of characters that we don't like as much, because I like both of these actors normally,
Sure.
but
Yes.
just here the writing is terrible. And then they meet up for Mother for a toast, and this time Mrs. Peel doesn't eat the macaron, or is it the macaroon?
Macaroon.
Thank you. Then the movie ends
The movie
with a zoom,
blissfully ends.
with like it zooms out to a shot of London. I did appreciate that all the shots of London from this point on do have like the destroyed Big Ben.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't notice
I
that.
looked for it. I was like, this is the one thing they showed us that blew up. They actually were consistent about it, and the movie ends.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have any spy fact versus fiction for us?
I do have a few. So there were a lot of references to Alice in Wonderland in this
Mhm.
Wonderland weather. There was also a quote that someone says that Mother says that sometimes I believe in as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
There's the maze. There's a character named Alice, of course. So yeah, lots of references to Alice in Wonderland, including, and this is just in the Disney movie. That I don't know if it was actually in the regular stories, but when Alice is like with the caterpillar, she's talking about different poems. Say she mentions the owl and the pussycat as one of them.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that. We mentioned it before. There's the M.C. Escher drawings of the stairs, the impossible stairs,
Mhm.
which was also, of course, featured in Inception. At one point, when they find the dead teddy bear in the forest, Steed says the teddy bears are having a picnic, which is a
Oh,
reference
right.
to the Teddy Bears Picnic, a song, a British song. But the thing that was most interesting to me is, so Mother, in the episodes we watched, Mother did not appear.
In episodes
No.
I watched by myself later, they do talk about him.
But Mother's first appearance is
Hmm.
in Mrs. Peel's very last episode, which I believe is the first episode of season 6.
Okay.
And Mother is played by someone we might recognize. The actor's name is Patrick Newell. He was in The Town of No Return as Smallwood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that actor came back, played a different. Apparently, he played a number of different roles throughout the series, but then came back as Mother, and in the pretty much the same appearance that Jim Broadbent was, with the mustache and the wheelchair. The character of Father only appeared in one episode, and I never got that Father was blind here, but in the show she was blind.
Okay, that's why she reminded me of the science teacher from Starship Troopers, who was also blind.
Yeah. The gentleman's club that Steed belongs to, Boodles, is a real gentleman's club in London. Ian Fleming was a member of that, and so he wrote Boodles into the James Bond novels, although he called it Blades, but it's supposed to be Boodles.
Okay.
But the location was not actually real Boodles. It's a place called the Reform Club. In the movie Die Another Day, they use the same location as the club Blades, which is where the fencing scene in Die Another Day takes place.
Oh, the famous one, the one that people actually like. Does Boodles allow women?
It does not. So that is true to life.
Okay. Still.
Or I don't know if it still does. Good question. As of the 1950s, when the books were written, and later 60s, there were no women allowed.
All right. All right. So now it's time for our favorite quotes. I have a bunch from the fights, but I had 2 I wanted to highlight. That
All right.
So the first is from the beginning training scene when
Yeah.
Steed is like signing out or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
he says, "The Cold War is over, so what are we gonna do?" And the guy he's talking to says, "Always an enemy. You just need to know where to look."
Damn it, you stole one of my quotes.
So I was like, "Is that supposed to be a political statement?"
It's a good quote. Maybe that line at the very beginning is what made me look up. All right, when did this, or made me think about? All right, when did this movie take place? All right, after GoldenEye, of course, and like
Hmm.
I think after the first Austin Powers movie as well. So they're all dealing with that sort of post Cold War. All right, who is the enemy now? Kind of thing.
Right.
Although we know that now the enemy is still Russia.
Yeah. What are our spies gonna do in our spy movies? And then my other quote is from this confrontation between mother and father.
Yep.
I'm not taking one of yours, am I?
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so father overpowers mother, knocks him down, and says, "It really isn't Mother's Day," which is so bad. It's the
Man.
worst quote in any of the movies we have seen,
Oh.
bar none. I had to share it.
All right. So I've got I had the always an enemy one. I also had no women, not in Boodles, not since 1762. I don't
Mhm.
know what accent that was. And I also had from Steed, I'm a nature lover, so whatever comes naturally.
Okay.
And then, of course, this is the one thing that, like, one of the two things I remember from the first time I tried to watch this movie and fell asleep. I
Mhm.
remembered the teddy bears are having a picnic, except they're not. No.
Or something close enough to it, I guess.
Uh, this may have the record for the most different accents we've tried to do.
Had to do something to keep us entertained because the movie sure didn't.
Yeah, all right.
All right, so now it is time for our ratings on a scale of 1 to 10 martinis, 1 being a terrible spy movie and 10 being the greatest. How would you rate The Avengers from 1998?
Oh, I agonized over this because it's just watch it. You know what? Here, let me. I forgot to share this. So this movie was originally 115 minutes, and they cut it down after a test screening. They cut it down to 90 minutes. So there's 25 minutes of movie, probably plot that would explain what happened in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is that if they cut that out, it was probably because it was boring the audience. So I can't imagine that would make it any way better movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But at least it might make sense. And this movie does not make sense. Like I've said many times, we don't care about these two main characters because if you didn't watch the show, you'd have no idea who these characters are. And if you did watch the show,
You're going to be
these are not
mad.
the characters that you know.
No.
So, I mean, especially like making Mrs. Peel, I don't know, just like what?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so bad, and it makes no sense. It's of that era of the late '90s blockbuster, the pre Star Wars prequels, pre Matrix '90s blockbuster, where if you add enough explosions and have enough big names, and maybe you're from an existing property, people would pay attention for you for 90 minutes and then forget about you, but give the money. I have to give this a 2 because it's just so bad. Like it's probably around. I don't know if it's better or worse than Hudson Hawk. I'd say it's about the same. You know, actually, no. Hudson Hawk, I was more entertained by because it made linear sense for the most
Mm-hmm.
part.
Yeah, Hudson Hawk wasn't boring.
I'm giving it a 2.
Okay, I am going to give it a 1.
Oh, oof.
Yes, a 1. I didn't even think I could
Wow.
because the thing is, I was like, okay, so Hudson Hawk got a 2, and this is a lot worse than Hudson Hawk. Like a lot worse. So
Yeah,
there's nowhere to go down from there. The only good thing I have to say about it is that it's short.
but it doesn't feel short.
No, it
There's
does
so
not.
much happening in this movie, and
Mhm.
you know what? Maybe it did need some time to breathe. Maybe those extra 25 minutes would have made the movie make more sense. Give it time to breathe, so it's not just going from scene to scene to scene to scene.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Do they sell a director's cut on DVD?
No one has seen this. Like no one since that test screening has seen the full movie.
Ah, oh well. I guess we won't be the exception. Thank you for joining us for the Avengers 1998. You can find us on social media at the Spy-Fi Guys under Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, I'm Zach.
I'm Christian.
And we are the Spy-Fi Guys signing off.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to rate and review us on iTunes. The theme music is by Jer Fitzgerald and Big Man Joe. Media reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at the Spy Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.